Hello my YouTube friends, it's Richard, founder of Short-Term Rental University and Airbnb Superhost. Today's video I want to share with you 5 reasons that I've personally walked away from real estate deals and recognize these are commonplace. They're going to happen on almost every single transaction, but you need to check in with yourself and draw a line in the sand and make sure you're not being taken advantage of, and I'm going to try and help you understand that fine line for yourself. So let's get right into it. The very first one I want to talk about is delays. Now, anybody who's done any real estate work expects delays. I expect delays too. So it's not enough to be delayed and say, I'm going to exit the deal. There's a lot of costs and time and energy and relationships that you've built. You don't want to walk away from a deal unless you absolutely must. So when the delays become the norm and no longer the delay, that's a big sign for me that it's not going well. I just walked away from a deal in Jackson Hole. The reason was because the deadline and the delivery date just kept changing, always. November, December, January, February. I didn't see a lot of progress, so these dates and times are really just like a marker being pushed forward. There wasn't any reason that the marker was now placed somewhere. It wasn't a schedule that was given to me and the crews are coming in and here's the way it's going to work. It was just sort of, we know we're behind. So instead of it being November, now it's December. We still know we're behind. We still haven't done very much now, and we're not going to be December, it's going to be January. I didn't have confidence in the crew that they had any idea when they were going to deliver it, and I didn't want to be standing by idly with my money tied up, just waiting forever. At the end of the day, building something, developing something, renting something, a real estate deal requires 2 parties. And the 2 parties need to communicate. You need to be transparent, you need to be truthful, you need to feel good about who you're doing business with. And if communication breaks down or is infrequent, or this person that you're working with is hard to get a hold of, that can cause a lot of problems. Not always. Everyone's really busy, and recognize that these contractors and decorators and designers, they're a lot of time in the field. They may not have cell phone access, or they may be working with other clients. So you have to give them that opportunity. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But once again, there's that fine line in the sand, which is if you're not getting any communication, you're not getting responses, and you have no idea what's going on, and you can't get a hold of anyone, and I don't mean for days, I mean perpetually, for weeks, maybe even months, then that's a real problem. And so let me give you an example. I had an issue. I ended up actually firing this contractor who's working on one of the biggest projects I've ever done, which was my brownstone in Manhattan, and I couldn't get a hold of the guy. I could never reach him. I had to reach his subcontractors. I actually tried to reach his wife. I couldn't communicate with him. And as it turned out, he had a very personal issue that he was dealing with, and he was completely off the grid, and there was no rhyme or reason when he would be coming back. There was nothing that we could do about it. And so my early signal of breakdown of communication, that antenna went up, and as I started to reach out and try and put all the pieces together, that probably saved me 6 months or a year instead of just waiting and waiting. All I'm suggesting is pay close attention, understand what's important to you. Are you getting enough out of the relationship? Are you getting the communication in a timely fashion, consistent with the way that you want to run the project? And if the answer is yes, even though they may not be communicating in real time every minute of every day, then stay with it. But if you're not getting communication and you're just completely being blown off and you have no idea what's going on and it's making you uncomfortable, then that's a problem. The third reason to walk away from a deal, and I've personally done this myself, is once again commonplace. So there's a fine line, and that's overages. Expect change orders. There's no way, no matter how much time and energy you and your architect and contractor have put in, that you're going to know every single thing that you're going to uncover during the course of the development. So expect overages. That's the norm. However, when they're constantly coming and nothing is on budget and not a single line item is what you thought it would be, that's a signal that there's a problem. So let me give you an example. I actually fired my contractor on a house that was being built in Quag, a custom-built house in the Hamptons, because we reached the total budget for the entire project. We weren't near finished, and he just kept changing, putting in new change orders to complete the project. So the things that I had paid for went over. He didn't submit overages for those, but then he came up with all this host of overcharges in order to finish the project. And we actually ended up firing him, ending up in court. I sued him, he countersued me, and then as you would imagine, this whole thing got settled out of court. The fourth reason is interpersonal. Work with people that you want to work with. If it turns out that you've made a mistake, then that's a problem. It's a little bit like dating. You can go on a date and not realize that you're not compatible until the third date or the fifth date or whatever. But you don't just stay with that person, dating them forever and marrying them and having kids with them, right? You sort of say, ooh, from an interpersonal relationship, we're not compatible. That can happen in a business deal as well, and just look for it. So here's an example I talked about in one of the other videos. We just fired our designer in Bali, and the reason was because it was clear and evident that while he had a terrific lifestyle and loved to travel and did all sorts of exotic, amazing things, our project wasn't his top priority, and it's a big priority for us. And so on an interpersonal level, as much as we tried to communicate and get him focused on what it is that we were doing, we were unable. We just had a conflict, a mismatch. We weren't meant to be together, and so consequently we did something about it. The fifth reason I want to share with you is new information. When you're working on a project, always keep your eyes open, always keep your ears open, network, communicate, learn as much as you possibly can, because the world is not a static place. There are new entrants, there are new opportunities, there's new zoning changes, there's new laws, there's all sorts of things that happen while you're working on a project. And instead of having your head down and focused only on your project, have everything, all your senses open and communicate and network, because there could be something that either adversely affects your project or it could benefit your project. Either way, you want to know about it. Now, in the light of new information, you may want to walk away from your deal because there's a better opportunity, your deal may not succeed, your deal may be worth less. There's a variety of reasons. And let me give you an example. I talked a little bit about the first deal that I did in Jackson Hole with the condo. This better opportunity was just listed on the market. When I went and put that reservation down on the 2-bedroom condo, the 3-bedroom condo wasn't for sale. As I started to have some of these issues that I talked about, delays, poor communication, interpersonal issues, I kept my eyes and ears open. I found a better opportunity. I closed the door on the bad, opened the door on the new, boom. So those are 5 reasons I've walked away from projects. Recognize this, I've done dozens of projects, so those 5 reasons rear their head in many cases, and there's probably dozens of projects and dozens of people that I've employed and I've re-employed, and I've been a great employer and they've been great partners and I'll work with them again. We're not going to highlight those. I just want to make it really clear. I'm not litigious, I'm not difficult to work for, I am demanding, I am exacting, I do have an idea of what I want, and I want to make sure that we get it done successfully and profitably. So I'm an educated buyer, but so too should you. And when something goes wrong, instead of just being passive and hanging out, it's time to take action and move forward. So in closing, I hope you've liked this video. I'd love for you to comment below. What are some of the reasons that you've had issues with contractors or deals or business associates, or why have you walked away? The more that we share, the more that we all benefit. I've only come up with 5, but there's probably dozens. And the more successful we are on our first deal, the more likely we are to have our second and third, and we're learning all along, so that's part of the process. I hope you've liked the video. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you soon.